Pain. Pain is the recognized leader of the Akatsuki and the most feared figure in the entire shinobi world during the second half of Naruto Shippuden. The name Pain does not refer to a single person, but to 6 bodies, all controlled remotely by a man named Nagato, a shinobi from the Hidden Rain village who possesses the Rinnegan. Each of the 6 bodies is a reanimated corpse of someone Nagato knew in life, and each one carries a distinct ability tied to the 6 paths of the Rinnegan. Together they are called the 6 paths of pain, and in practice they function as a single overwhelming force rather than 6 separate fighters. Nagato himself operates from a hidden location, channeling his power through all 6 bodies simultaneously using black receivers embedded in each one. His philosophy is built around the idea that pain is the only thing capable of creating true understanding between people, and that only by making the world experience loss on a catastrophic scale can genuine peace ever be achieved. He destroys the entire Hidden Leaf village almost single-handedly to demonstrate this belief, and the scale of what he does in that arc establishes him as one of the most consequential antagonists in the series. His story is ultimately one of a child shaped entirely by loss and war, who turned that grief into a world view, and the confrontation between his philosophy and Naruto's becomes one of the most important exchanges the series ever produces. Obito Uchiha. Obito Uchiha is the true architect of the Akatsuki as it exists throughout Shippuden, operating under the name Tobi for a significant portion of the series while hiding his real identity behind a mask and a deliberately erratic personality. He was believed to have died during the Third Shinobi War after being crushed under a rockfall while saving Kakashi, but he was recovered by Madara and spent his recovery being shaped into the instrument of Madara's plan. The death of Rin, the teammate he loved, at Kakashi's hands while he watched through his Sharingan is the moment that breaks him completely and makes him willing to accept Madara's vision of a world rebuilt through the infinite Tsukuyomi. His Mangekyo Sharingan grants him the ability to phase through matter and warp objects and people into a personal dimension, making him effectively untouchable in conventional combat. He manipulates pain, builds the Akatsuki into the organization it becomes, and orchestrates the release of the Nine Tails on the Hidden Leaf village. His identity as Tobi is revealed gradually. He is ultimately one of the most tragic figures in the series. Deidara. Deidara is one of the most distinctive members of the Akatsuki, both in terms of personality and fighting style. He comes from the Hidden Stone village, where he stole a forbidden technique before defecting, and his entire ability set revolves around a Kekkei Genkai that allows him to knead chakra into clay using mouths located in the palms of his hands and on his chest. He shapes that clay into creatures and constructs of varying sizes, and when detonated, they explode with a force and precision that scales with how much chakra and effort he puts into the creation. Deidara treats this as art, specifically the art of a single fleeting moment of destruction. His rivalry with Sasori over this question reflects 2 genuinely different philosophies rather than just personality conflict. Deidara is brought into the Akatsuki after being defeated by Itachi, and from that point he operates as one of the organization's primary long-range threats. His final move, turning his own body into an explosive, is entirely consistent with who he is. He genuinely believes in what he is doing, and the manner of his exit is the most Deidara thing the series could have written for him. Itachi Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha is the most layered member of the Akatsuki and one of the most carefully constructed characters in the entire series. He joins the organization after massacring the entire Uchiha clan in a single night, leaving only his younger brother Sasuke alive, and from that point forward, he exists within the Akatsuki as one of its most capable and feared members. His partnership with Kisame makes them one of the most dangerous pairings the organization fields. Itachi's ability set is centered entirely around his Mangekyo Sharingan, which gives him access to Tsukuyomi, a genjutsu that can trap a target in a subjective world of torture that compresses days of suffering into a fraction of a second. Amaterasu, black flames that burn without stopping until whatever they touch is completely destroyed. He also has access to Susanoo at its most developed form, equipped with the Yata Mirror and the Totsuka Blade, which together make him essentially untouchable in direct combat. The truth about Itachi, revealed after his death, is that the massacre was carried out under orders from the Hidden Leaf's own leadership to prevent an Uchiha coup, and that everything he did afterward was designed to protect Sasuke and eventually die by his hand. He spent his entire time in the Akatsuki working against it from the inside. Sasori is one of the most technically accomplished members of the Akatsuki and one of the most tragic figures in the series once his history is fully understood. He comes from the Hidden Sand Village and is the grandson of Chiyo, one of the village's most respected elder shinobi. Sasori's parents died when he was very young, and in their absence, he developed the ability to create puppets so lifelike that he built replicas of his parents just to feel what it might be like to have them present. That early grief shapes everything about who he becomes. He eventually becomes a master puppeteer capable of controlling over 100 puppets simultaneously, a feat that is essentially unheard of in the series. He converts most of the 100 into his personal collection by transforming the bodies of defeated opponents into puppets, preserving them perfectly and adding weapons and mechanisms to each one. Most significantly, he converts his own body into a puppet as well, replacing everything except his core with a mechanical shell that grants him immunity to poison, pain, and physical deterioration. He believes that removing human impermanence is the highest form of art, the direct opposite of Deidara's philosophy. His death at the hands of Chiyo and his quiet acceptance of it at the end of that fight is one of the more unexpectedly moving moments the series produces. Yahiko is the original founder of the Akatsuki and the person whose death set the entire trajectory of the Pain arc in motion. He grew up alongside Nagato and Konan as a war orphan in the Hidden Rain village, and from a very early age, he carried the belief that the cycle of war devastating small nations like their own could be broken if ordinary people chose to stand up and change things themselves. He founded the original Akatsuki, not as a criminal organization, but as a group genuinely trying to bring peace to the Hidden Rain village through resistance and negotiation. His death comes at the hands of Hanzo of the Salamander, who manipulates the situation to force Nagato into an impossible choice, and the trauma of that moment is what breaks Nagato completely and redirects everything Yahiko built towards something far darker. The original Akatsuki that Yahiko envisioned and the organization it eventually became are almost unrecognizable from one another. He becomes the Diva Path, the most prominent of Pain's 6 bodies, which means his face is the one the world associates with Pain's destruction. There is a particular weight to the fact that the body used to level the Hidden Leaf village belonged to someone who spent his life trying to stop exactly that kind of suffering from happening to people. Konan is the only female member of the Akatsuki and one of the founding members alongside Nagato and Yahiko. She grew up alongside both of them as an orphan of war in the Hidden Rain village, and the bond between the three of them is the emotional foundation that the entire Pain arc is built around. Konan's ability is entirely paper-based, allowing her to transform her body and generate weapons and constructs from paper with a level of control and creativity that makes her far more dangerous than the ability sounds on its surface. She can disperse her entire body into millions of paper sheets, fly, create massive explosive constructs, and in her most powerful display against Obito, she prepares 600 billion explosive paper tags detonating in sequence to try to eliminate him permanently. That attempt demonstrates that Konan at her peak is genuinely lethal even to someone operating at a level most shinobi cannot reach. What makes her stand out among Akatsuki members is how grounded her motivations are compared to the others. She fights for Nagato and for the memory of Yahiko, and after Nagato's death, she defects from the Akatsuki entirely, choosing to protect Nagato's legacy over continuing any mission. Her death at Obito's hands is one of the quieter tragedies in the series. Hidan is the most openly unhinged member of the Akatsuki and the only one who treats the organization's missions as an opportunity for religious devotion rather than strategic objectives. He is a devout follower of Jashin, a religion that demands death and suffering as offerings, and his entire fighting style is built around a ritual that requires him to ingest his opponent's blood and draw a ritual circle, after which any damage dealt to his own body is mirrored onto the opponent connected through that circle. The ability effectively makes him a walking curse that kills opponents by hurting himself, and the method is as disturbing in practice as it sounds. What makes this ability even more difficult to deal with is that Hidan himself is immortal. He cannot be killed by any conventional means, which means opponents have to find a way to neutralize him without being able to use damage as a solution. His partnership with Kakuzu is one of the more darkly comedic dynamics in the series, built on mutual irritation and a shared disregard for anyone outside their immediate mission. Hidan's eventual defeat at the hands of Shikamaru Nara is one of the most satisfying strategic sequences in the series, using his own immortality against him by trapping him in a state where his inability to die becomes the punishment rather than the advantage. Kisame. He is one of the most physically imposing members of the Akatsuki and Itachi's long-standing partner within the organization. He comes from the Hidden Mist Village, where he was one of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, a group of elite fighters, each defined by a unique and powerful blade. His sword Samehada is unlike any conventional weapon in the series. It is a living creature that feeds on chakra, shredding it away from opponents on contact rather than cutting in the traditional sense. And it can absorb an enormous amount of chakra and transfer that energy directly to Kisame during a fight. Kisame himself has an exceptionally large chakra reserve, enough that he is frequently compared to a tailed beast in terms of raw output, and his water-based jutsu are among the most powerful in the series. He can generate an enormous dome of water that creates a battlefield entirely suited to his fighting style while cutting off opponents from their environment. Beyond his power, Kisame is notable for his absolute loyalty to whatever mission he is given, and his complete absence of hesitation. He kills without conflict, operates without ego, and in his final moments chooses to take his own life rather than allow himself to be captured and used as a source of information. Kakuzu is one of the oldest members of the Akatsuki and the one with the most unusual relationship with his own mortality. He comes from the Hidden Waterfall Village, and at some point in his past was sent on a mission to assassinate Hashirama Senju, failed, and was punished by his own village for that failure. He defected, stole a forbidden technique that allows him to take and integrate the hearts of opponents into his own body, and has spent the decades since extending his life by continuously replacing his hearts when they wear out. By the time he appears in the series, he carries 5 hearts simultaneously, each one granting him access to a different nature release, and destroying all 5 is the only way to actually kill him. This makes him extraordinarily difficult to deal with, because most opponents can eliminate 1 heart and believe they have won, only to find 4 more still operational. He is paired with Hidan, specifically because Hidan's immortality means Kakuzu does not have to worry about accidentally killing his own partner while fighting, which was apparently a recurring problem with previous partners. Kakuzu is cold, mercenary, and motivated almost entirely by money, which makes him one of the more grounded members of the organization in terms of motivation. His defeat at Naruto's hands through the wind release Rasen Shuriken is a significant moment in establishing how much Naruto has grown by that point in the series. Orochimaru is one of the founding members of the Akatsuki and one of the most significant antagonists in the entire Naruto series, though his time within the organization ends long before the events of Shippuden. He joins the early Akatsuki at Pain's invitation and operates within it as one of its most dangerous members before eventually defecting after attempting to steal Itachi's body and being driven out. Orochimaru's core obsession is achieving immortality and mastering every jutsu in existence, and those goals make him fundamentally incompatible with any organization that expects loyalty above personal ambition. After leaving the Akatsuki, he establishes his own network of bases, conducts experiments on human subjects, and builds a following centered entirely around his own continued survival and research. His significance to the Akatsuki's history is less about what he contributed during his membership and more about the ripple effects of his departure. The vacancy he leaves creates the opening for Sasori to bring Deidara in, and his actions after leaving, including his involvement with Sasuke, reshape significant portions of the story's direction. Orochimaru is not a straightforward villain in the way many antagonists in the series are. He is a researcher first, and almost everything he does, no matter how destructive, traces back to that fundamental drive to know more and to survive long enough to keep knowing. Zetsu is the most unusual member of the Akatsuki in terms of both appearance and function within the organization. He presents as a single entity entity split between two distinct personalities, a white half that is generally more talkative and expressive, and a black half that is quieter and more calculating, both sharing a single plant-like body that can merge into the ground or vegetation and travel undetected. Within the Akatsuki, he functions primarily as a spy and information gatherer, observing battles and reporting back rather than engaging directly, and his ability to go undetected makes him one of the most practically useful members the organization has for covert operations. The true nature of Zetsu is revealed later in the series and significantly reframes his role in the larger story. White Zetsu is revealed to be a mass of humans who were trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi by Kaguya long ago, while Black Zetsu is something else entirely, a physical manifestation of Kaguya's will that has been operating across centuries. Black Zetsu has been manipulating the entire history of the shinobi world, including Madara himself, from behind the scenes.